You're listening to Unashamed by Grace with Joanne Pelcher, right here on ChristianLivingRadio.com. You're listening to ChristianLivingRadio.com. If you'd like to get your show, your ministry on the air, please contact us at 520-812-6363 or write to us at info@ChristianLivingRadio.com. And now back to the show.
Good morning, Christian Living Radio. This is Joanne with Unashamed by Grace, welcoming you this morning. We have some special guests with us today. We actually had them about a month ago, but due to popular demand, they are back with us. And this is International Defensive Training Systems out of Tempe, Arizona. So, welcome, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you girls doing today?
Good.
Wonderful.
It's a beautiful day out there.
It is.
All right. Well, Joanne, I know you got some good questions in store, and we're excited to have them back here. And we apologize for not showing them on film. However, due to concerns of their safety, and we're going to keep them hidden, but you can sure enough hear their voices.
Yeah, they do some really intensive training, and they work with a lot of sex trafficking victims. So we want to make sure that we keep everything private for them and for the people that they work with. But the information they have, we want to make public because it's helpful to the general public and especially parents and children, which Unashamed by Grace is so focused on educating because, you know, it's a digital world that we live in, and it sometimes can be a dangerous world, and we want to protect our children. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you back today, because you have such great information, and we just didn't have enough time the last time you were here. So just to kind of recap, about a month ago, when you both visited, I know you talked a lot about the prevention, education, and then critical self-defense. So do you want to just give the listeners just a little bit of feedback about what we spoke of last time and about what IDTS is and what you do?
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. International Defensive Training Systems is a prevention, education, and critical self-defense system. And basically what we do is we train women and children to break predatory methods and behaviors. So it starts with education, teaching parents, teaching the kids how to identify dangerous behaviors, luring techniques, coercion. There's a whole gamut of things that predators do, and there's different types of predators. So basically, we got a chance to sit down with predators, traffickers, rapists, child predators, and got inside their heads to find out exactly what they did. And so based on their predatory methods, we built this system. It took us 2 years to build the system out, 2 more years to test it to make sure it was effective. And so basically, based on their predatory methods of how they, say for an abduction, if they reach out to grab a woman or a child by the arm, and they pull away, we teach them something that breaks the psychological methods of that. So there's a whole system. So at the end of this, we'll give everybody a website they can go to and check us out and get their kids registered, get the women registered. We actually have a class. This is our second semester starting up at Arizona State University, where the sexual assaults are about 15,000 annually.
Those numbers are just so astonishing. I can't believe it. It's just something, I'm sure it's in the news. You just don't hear about it very often. It's not the main news. And so I know a lot of people that I speak to that I mentioned I have interviewed you and really promote your organization. They just don't know either. We're kind of all in the dark about it. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here today, just to kind of educate the public on really what is going on in the unseen that we don't always hear about. So I want to go back to something that you just said where your organization was able to interview different types of predators. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? Did you visit prisons, or how did you actually get a hold of these people?
Yeah, actually, my father was associate superintendent for California Department of Corrections, and I have a background in law enforcement as well. So I was able to get those interviews.
Okay.
And it was a really hard time to be able to sit down across with these guys because they like to talk about their assaults. And so it was really difficult.
Like they brag?
Yeah, it's like trophies.
Well, right? Yeah. And it takes them back to their assault. Mm-hmm. Wow. And so they basically get to relive it again.
Right.
So that was the difficult part, but it was worth it because of the information that we got from them and to be able to build this system out.
Yeah, because that's firsthand information, right? That's from the actual people that are doing it. So what better information is, to find out exactly what goes on in their head.
Exactly. What was interesting is nothing changed across the board except for their motive. So their assaults, their luring, everything that they did was
all
the same. And so that's how we built the system out, was based on their predatory methods.
I see. So motives would be just, different, like...
Well, if they're traffickers, how they lure, and get to them. So their motive would
not
be
just monetary, right? It can be other ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Motives. Yeah.
So, the reasons that, someone will be abducted is for someone's own sexual gratification, to be held as a sex slave, for trafficking. And then there's also, and I think we're going to cover this in our ABCs today, as mesopedia is the hatred of children to the extent that they absolutely have to do something about it. Right. So those are our serial child killers.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so amazing that you were able to just get that firsthand information, because it just helps people understand, how to protect their children, how to protect their families. And I know that's one thing that your organization really works hard at, is education. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, do you have safety tips for parents? And do you have safety tips for children? Is that something that your organization has out in print or on your website? We're actually getting ready to release some ebooks, and that will have some tips and stuff, and that's a great way to get introduced, to what we do, get on the mats with us, go through Carrie's prevention education course, and then get onto the mats with us. But yeah, we're going to put some tips out there so parents can learn to identify predatory behaviors, teach their kids how to identify it as well. Okay.
And so, Carrie, you want to go into one of the, with the kids and the cars?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name's Carrie, and my focus is definitely on the prevention side, sort of preventing the disease from happening in the first place. Since some of the stats can be a little scary, like whenever you hear a child being abducted every 40 seconds, we want to give parents and kids those tools to use to get out of situations. 90% is about awareness of your surroundings, and not even getting into those situations in the first place is really our focus. And since it costs a lot less, and it is a lot less energy to actually prevent it from happening versus whenever it actually does happen. So one of the first safety tips for kids is a scenario that we really like to have parents participate in. Maybe have your kids like walking the neighborhood. So it's about the cheetah of the anchor program with IDTS. And say the scenario in the real world is someone drives up to the kid in a truck or a car,
which you hear about all the time. Yes.
Yeah. It's like the oldest one in the book.
Right. That they're still using.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and they just use different things like, you want some candy? You want to help me with, my dog's lost or my whatever. But no adult needs to walk up to a kid and needs to drive up to a kid and ask any information from that child. That's first and foremost, that kid needs to know that is the boundary, that no adult needs to come up and speak with them, other than their safe adults, their parents and family members. And so if a car drives up to them, what would they do in that situation in their neighborhood or walking home from school? And the scenario would be that you as a parent would drive around that neighborhood and drive up to your child, and they need to turn and run the other way. It's just instinct that
Opposite
they turn
direction.
and run the other way, because that person is going to either have to get out of their car and run after them, or turn around in their vehicle and run after them. But that is the first and foremost, is that child is screaming fire. That child is getting to a safe place, and that they kind of like a Where's Waldo, like a kind of a Where's Weirdo. You would want to get
Where's Weirdo? Yeah.
Get a what color was that vehicle?
Yes.
What color?
So remember
that
everything
details.
that they. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and it's about practice. It's almost playing a game with the child. But I've done it with my own, that you just drive up next to them, and that it's getting that muscle memory, and then that memory to turn and run the other way, and not to play on their, oh, there's a puppy, or or ice cream, or whatever the lure is going to be. That they get that in their mind, that there's no adult that needs to speak with them.
So do you recommend, like if they're in a neighborhood, for instance, where there's houses, sidewalks, and so forth, not running to a house, but staying in the main area where there would be more help and people driving or walking around? Is that what you typically recommend? Because you could run up to a house and no one is home, and that would be a bad situation, right?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of parental supervision, pretty much at all times, staying around your kid, not letting your kids, run the neighborhoods by themselves or walking home. But that is, to me, it's on our watch. It's on our parental watch of when we're letting our children outside of our space. We're leading them open to those predators. You have to think, like, if we were actual animals, like a bear, or a lion or
they're
something.
They're always with their cubs. Yes.
Yeah, and they're leaving them in a safe area or with other. I mean, you think of a mama bear. She don't let no other bear around her babies, and you don't mess with a mama bear.
Yeah.
You don't. Those
No,
male
don't
bears don't mess with the mamas. They could be half the size, and they are fierce.
Wow.
Well, I think I shared the last time you were here. I think Clayton was 12 before I allowed him to go outside of our cul-de-sac, and I would stand on the sidewalk and watch him ride his bike, and he's like, Mom, please, I'm almost a teenager. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And so I would actually drive with him every once in a while, and I wouldn't let him go very far, but he was older. I feel the same way. I don't. And when I see little kids walking, sometimes some of them are 6 years old, I'm like, where are their parents? I just can't believe they're out walking by themselves.
What you have to understand is these guys are cold and calculated, and they're hunting.
You're listening to ChristianLivingRadio.com.
We go to work every day, so do they. They're actually out there looking for that opportunity. So you have different types of predators. You have one who is preferential, who prefers a certain eye color, hair color, age, gender. And they will actually, they'll stalk not just our children, but our women. They'll watch to that right opportune time. And then you have your opportunist, who will actually just grab that child because he's or she is available. And the same with women. They're just, they're looking, they're hunting, and they're just going to reach out and grab them and go. And so it's very important, like Carrie said, stay on top of your kids, know where they are. Yeah, you might be called a hover parent, but guess what? Your child is safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talked last time, you just mentioned it again, on how they're a predator. Do they go through a series of planning and, do they take time to plan this out and watch their victim first?
Your preferential will. And sometimes they'll wait. They will wait till, if they're watching a child, they'll learn the parent's routine, the kid's routine. They learn everything they can from a distance.
They're patient.
Yes, they'll wait. Sometimes they'll wait 6 months, a year till they get that right child or that right woman. So one of the tips that I want to
build that trust. Yes. Also sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we're dealing with not just strangers, but we're dealing with people,
family members,
acquaintances. And it could be a friend of a friend of a friend.
Right.
That came to a party. And
but they recognize and they're, oh, I know you.
Yeah. So
familiar.
one of the things that we also do is really encourage parents. It should be as a code word. And the only people who get that code word are your immediate family and a close friend. And that child does not go. I don't care if they tell you, your child that you're bleeding in the hospital and, dying. They do not leave unless that person has a code word.
Yes.
If that code, word gets out there for some reason, change it.
Yep. Yeah.
We've been using the same code word in my family since my kids, were little. And now I have grandkids, and now, I have a great grandson. But he's too little for a code word. But,
Right.
But it's really important to, give your children tools to identify, give your children tools to be able to defend themselves. And so a little bit about what we teach. We don't teach martial arts. We don't teach your basic traditional self-defense. What we teach is based on their predatory methods, which is so important for women and children to understand. We just got finished doing a training class, and that team went over to ASU. and some of the girls that were involved in this class. And the very first night, I said, when they first came in, I said, well, what do you think? And they're like, oh, I don't think I can do this. By the end of that training class that night, I said, what do you think?